5:30. We'll call the meeting to order. The November business meeting of the Lee County Board of Education. Ms. Lang is going to offer our invocation.
Let us pray. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for this day and for allowing us to meet. And thank you for those gathered here. Grant us the wisdom and discernment to make the decisions which are in the best interest of our students and our staff. Help us to do our best in all that we do. In your name we pray. Amen.
All right, you have the agenda before you. Is there anyone with any additions or changes to the agenda? I have one that I request that we separate out action item 2 into 2 separate votes, taking up the $500 supplement for employees first, and then the $1,000 supplement for all full-time employees second. We can adopt the agenda by consent with those changes, if everybody's all right with that.
I'm not okay with separating the two. I want to do one.
Okay. Okay. All right, we can adopt the agenda as is. Everybody's all right with that? That we consent, everyone? Okay. Moving forward, Dr. Miller, we have a few, well, we'll do the minutes first, I see here. Need approval of the minutes for the October 18th business meeting. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Have a motion from Ms. Lang, a second from Ms. Ford. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. Passes 5-0. Presentation of the financial report. You had those in your minutes. What is the pleasure of the board as it relates to the financial report?
Move to approve.
Have a motion from Ms. Lang. Is there a second? Second from Ms. Ford. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Passes 5-0. Dr. Miller.
Lee County schools are blessed with outstanding teachers and staff, and today we have the honor of the newest Lee County School System Teacher of the Year, Ms. Danielle Powell, joining us, and I'm going to call on Ms. Robin Giles to introduce her to the board. Robin?
Do we need to cut it?
Yes, please. Yeah.
She's trying to get out of it. She wasn't going to come. I had the pleasure of introducing Ms. Danielle Powell. After an extensive selection process, Ms. Danielle Powell was chosen for the 2021-2022 System Teacher of the Year. And Ms. Powell is a special education teacher at the 9th grade campus, and she's been with us since 2012. She teaches students in a self-contained classroom, students with intellectual disabilities, and I'm a little biased, but she is amazing. She is fabulous, and she is definitely deserves this award. Ms. Danielle Powell.
They normally give a 2-minute speech.
Oh, am I supposed to? I'll come back up.
Congratulations. We have the consent agenda next. What is the pleasure of the board as it relates to the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Have a motion from Ms. Lang. Is there a second?
I'll say.
Is that Dr. Newell?
Yes, sir.
That's all right. Good to see you. Have a second from Dr. Newell. Dr. Miller, do you have any comments about it?
This agenda is routine for this time of the year. We have 14 recommendations for employment, 5 resignations, 4 reassignments, 2 corrections to a previous agenda, 1 termination, 2 retirements, 7 requests to raise funds, 7 overnight out-of-state field trip requests, 2 facility use requests, and 2 website flyers.
Any questions of Dr. Miller in the consent agenda?
I do.
Yes.
We used to at one time receive the documentation that went along with the fundraisers. So we would know, how the funds are being collected and safeguarded and basically used. We don't get those anymore. Is
Okay.
there a
Wait.
reason,
I
are they
can.
online, or what?
No, ma'am, we can certainly share that information with you. That's no problem. We get a request from the school, the principal has to approve it first, and then it comes to us, and we review it here in the central office, and then bring it before the board if we think it's something that we can do or sustainable, or at least to give the board the opportunity to review it and vote on it. So we will be sure to include that.
Is it this one like the Pippin's on here? Is it like that?
This is, well, that's the facilities, that's to be able to use our facilities. But we can include that also, because there is a form that they have to fill out in order to be able to use facilities or raise funds or, go somewhere overnight.
Gotcha.
And, basically, and I know the schools do this, but, they have to make sure that there are background checks on all of the individuals that are gonna do the chaperoning. And some things like that, and we just had all that information prior to approving this, in the past. And, it's nice to see that we're kind of still making those checks.
All right. Any other comments about the consent agenda? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Passes 5-0. Dr. Miller, your report.
We'll begin with a SPLOST report. We had another record-setting month of SPLOST collections in October, coming in at $390,134.01. It's the highest total ever for the month of October, so very pleased with that. You can see it indicated on the report there. Moving right along to food service. Last month, we served 94,865 meals when you combine breakfast and lunch together in our cafeterias. And they do a great job, very proud of that. I would like to point out that some terminology is no longer in use. We used to have what we refer to as a reduced status, but now students are either free or paid lunch. The reduced status is no longer, and this is free status is determined based on a direct certification list that we received from the Department of Human Resources, and the students on the list receive government assistance that qualifies them as a free student. So the reduced is not, that formerly was something we would refer to as free and reduced lunch. That's not there anymore. Also, and you may remember that all students can eat for free this year because of the action of the federal government. So, plan operations, we'll have a PowerPoint. You can see, we won't go through the whole PowerPoint, but Jennifer, would you look at the second and third slides? This is the newly remodeled and updated media center at Kinchafooney Primary School. You can see that there was a big project, a complete makeover, new carpet, paint, furniture, and I would like to propose having our next board meeting there. And if you've not been by, you're of course welcome to stop by and see it. It's absolutely beautiful. It is, the furniture is very appropriate for that age level. I don't know if y'all have been in that media center before, but the circulation desk was about this high. You had to be about 4th grade or 5th grade to see over it, and they don't have anybody that tall. So they have an appropriate desk. The workspaces are great. You can see they have the little, those are like pie pieces, those circular reading lounges. I'm not sure what they call those things, but that's what the carpet looked like before the furniture. Go back to the first picture, Jim. And you see the tables are designed so that they can be split apart or work collaboratively, and the furniture is very functional. The 2 gray bookcases in this left picture, they're going to set them up by stacks, and so if they have a theme or a certain author that they want to highlight, for example. Pete the cat is real big at that age level, and so they have all the Pete books lined up on the top, and then underneath they can pull out a little bin that has more books in it, so it's really going to be friendly for circulation. They're very excited about it. The kids got to walk through it on Friday, and that is very good news. And transportation, the bus parking lot is down to a punch list. The bus wash remains to be completed, but several components have been delivered. I walked through it last week, and the mechanics were showing me some of the equipment that's been shipped in, and the storage building is complete, but we're still waiting on the actual bus washing building. So the project turned out great. The buses have all relocated from parking at schools back to the bus shop, and everybody has been assigned their parking area. They're using golf carts because now all the bus drivers can park in a parking lot. Before they were parking in the ditch on the side of the road, across the road next to the fire station, and now they're all in that parking lot. But it is a little bit of a distance from, sometimes maybe from where their bus is to where they park their personal vehicle. So we have golf carts that run them back and forth, and they're also using those to service the buses. It looks great. There's still some fencing that has to be completed, but it is very close, and very thankful for that project. And I've heard that some of the drivers are even walking laps when they run their route at the end of the day. They're making use of that area to exercise, so that's good. Very positive feedback. Also, continuing with transportation, we have two special guests here with us tonight, and Chief is available to answer any questions. Each of you should have gotten a flyer at your desk about the school zone. I know they've done a great job of really blitzing social media and other forms of media, getting the word out about the school zones. And Chief, would you mind just saying a few words about that?
Yes, sir. Greetings. We have done news stories with WLB, WFXL, front page of the Albany Herald. Jim Quinn, who actually got caught in the speed zone this past Friday, is going to have a picture of his own Tahoe with the story that we wrote on the front page of the Ledger Wednesday. We've done the City of Leesburg website, our police department Facebook page. We also have two PSA commercials that are running, if any of y'all have seen them. Trying to do everything we can to get the information out as much as possible. I spoke with Dr. Miller today and asked him, forgive me for being old school, we had brung two big cases of like 7,000 pieces of paper, and he says, we can do this electronically, and the kids won't be making them into airplanes on the bus. So those are also being sent out. The system is up and running. Originally, when I spoke to you last time, we were going to do a 30-day warning phase. Given the time frame that we got held up because of these little silicon chip things that the cameras use, they got held up with the, apparently you can't get those for anything from trucks to DVD players or whatever, but they got held up with those, with the internet component of them. They are up and running, and we chose to go ahead and extend the warning period just throughout the rest of the year. That way nobody's facing that at Christmas time during the holidays, and we'll address it going live when it comes back next year. What I thought about is when school comes back after the first of the year is actually putting a patrol car out in each one of the sites with the lights flashing with a sign on it and says, you know, speed zone cameras are active. Trying to do everything that we can do to get the word out as much as possible. But we had the training this past Thursday. The camera system on that thing is absolutely phenomenal. It gives us the ability that we can, if we had to go back and look for a vehicle, and even if we've only got a partial tag number, we can put a partial tag number in there and it'll search its database up to 30 days of anything that's gone past the camera. At this time, we only have the camera site set up at the high school, the 9th grade academy, and the middle school west. The middle school east, The city is currently doing the DOT LMIG project. I don't know if y'all seen them out there where they're laying the forms to do the sidewalks at. After that's over, we're also wanting to do a site at the middle school west. And my logic behind that is not to overlook the lower classmen schools, but during the test phase, just from what I've seen from, having been here with the police department for 25 years and going to school here, the high schools and the middle schools are the only two that actually have kids that are walking and biking to school. So I think there's a little bit more justification on those. So we're gonna run those sites. We're gonna play with the security aspect of it and see how it goes. But the plan is now we're gonna run the warning phase through the remainder of the year, and the cameras will go active on January 3rd. I just wanted to come by and see if, figured some of y'all have probably seen the news stories on WALB or whatever. Just want to see if y'all had any questions or thoughts or comments. Yes, sir, Mr. Newell.
I've had a couple of my truck pictures sent to me in the mail recently too, but from Doherty County. But I'm asking, I in their system, but I want to be clear. I'm sure y'all are going to be similar. If it's in the speed zone all day, but it reverts back to normal speed limit when school zones are not out, is that correct?
Yes.
So if it's 45, if you're going 55, you're going to get ticket, or 56, you're going to get ticket.
Actually, and I don't want to become too public with this, my intent is to, when the lights are flashing during the 25-mile-an-hour time, if you exceed 10 over, you're getting a ticket. And I have no sympathy for somebody that's going to call me complaining about that. During the middle of the day, I'm gonna set the threshold a little higher than that, just because there's people that, are gonna be on that bandwagon, that this is not about safety, this is about revenue. And I've had a bunch of people call me and I said, listen, if one of my officers or a deputy sheriff or a state trooper were to write you a ticket for 15 over in a school zone, where those fines and points are doubled, you're looking at a $200 citation plus an insurance increase, where this is a flat rate, $75, no points, no effect on your license, so it's not about revenue. More revenue could be generated if we were to put the people out there and enforce it manually, but people get that, so I'm trying to, I want to raise that trigger speed outside of the 25-mile-an-hour zones a little bit higher, at least to start with, just so it's not.
But it's not school zone speed all day.
Right.
That's where everybody gets confused.
I think one of the biggest things that got people confused in Albany is when Red Speed actually did the media push there, they used the exact same verbiage that the state legislature used in the bill when they pushed it. And most of us are not lawyers. So, when they're using that lawyer terminology, to begin 1 hour before the commencement of the first class through to terminate 1 hour after. The simple way to say that is it's going to operate from 7 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. The first hour and a half in the morning at 25 miles an hour, if you go over 10 over, it's going to get you. In the last hour and a half, from 2:30 to 4, same thing. In the time in between, it's only going to enforce the posted speed limit. Again, there's no points, but it's going to have a little bit more of a threshold before it triggers. I think Albany's got theirs set at 10 across the board for every site, and man, they have just, I talked to one of the guys that we know there over the traffic unit. He said it had just about become a full-time job for him. So we're not looking at that. We're just looking to be a deterrent.
And it's a Leesburg Police Department program, not a Lee County Board of Education.
That is correct. And all of the PSAs, they have not put the school's names in.
Make sure they got your phone number.
I'm being the bad man between the mayor and the city manager and the city council and the school board. I'm gonna take the brunt of the heat for it. But Frank, as many wrecks, as many accidents as we work. I was just speaking to Donna before this and told her that one other place that I would like to get these at some point would be on Peach Avenue at the intersection of Trojan White. We would have to amend our speed detection permit to do that, but we actually work, believe this or not, we actually work more accidents, or as many accidents on Peach Avenue as we do US 19 and very likely close to the whole rest of the city combined. So it's, and the one child that we've actually had hit was actually crossing Peach. So That's something we're gonna look at in the future, but for right now, we're looking at the upper class schools, the middle school, the ninth grade, and the high school, simply because I think that'll get the point across, and those are the schools that kids are actually walking to. We do want to do the middle school east, but we've got an LMIG project going on out there and a sewer project going on out there, so I've got to wait till that's done before we can do that. That's actually already on our permit, but I've got to wait till they clear that before we can do it.
I appreciate the effort, don't hear what I'm saying, it's not.
Oh, I know.
The folks that can do something about it, they call, you know.
Well, if I can say it live, Frank, I'll be the bad. I have no problem with that.
Any other questions of the chief? We appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for having us.
Thank you.
Finally, student health services. As of this morning, there were only 4 cases of COVID in the system. This is great news, and we're very thankful. We were actually, based on our COVID mitigation plan, at level 1. Community numbers are less than 100 cases per 100,000 for a 14-day period, which is really, really good. We haven't seen numbers like that since early July, and very thankful. We hope that trend continues. I'm proud to say, and this doesn't have directly to do with student health services, but I was talking with some of our primary folks last week, and they were commenting to me that some of our kindergarten and first graders got to go on their first ever field trip. They've not been on one because they've been unable to do that last year with concerns over COVID. So we hope that continues to be the case, and very thankful for those good numbers. Our nurses are continuing to work very hard and stay busy. As you can see from their report, they had, I totaled it up, there were 3,458 clinic visits in October. So that's a lot, and that's about typical for a month of school. So we're very thankful for our school nurses and their work. And those are all my reports.
Any questions of Dr. Miller? I have a couple.
Yes, sir.
Back in the SPLOST collection numbers, those averages are significantly higher than we've had in the past. Do we have any thoughts on what that means for future SPLOSTs and dollars we can generate now?
And that one's gonna sunset on us too, I mean, so, but yes, and, when he shows y'all some numbers tonight, we better be happy that those numbers are increasing, because the costs of going are up.
For construction, and we, based on the projections, the averages would come out over the life, about $2 million difference.
And we were 18 to 20 million, I think, the last time, in 2022, somewhere.
Yes, sir. So it'd be what we projected if the average is maintained. They're right now at about 390,000, which is really good, best ever we've had. And very thankful for that. So hopefully that means we can accomplish more in the next class. And I sent you an email from Frank King about. I can resend it to you, but he was talking about the impact of those higher numbers, being able to accomplish more, maybe sunset of earlier. So.
Okay. Unrelated to that, the reduced lunch percentages that we're reporting,
Yes, sir.
before this month, we were bumping 45 to 50% in free and reduced lunches. Aside from the COVID program of paying for all the lunches, do we think that that's going to reduce the number of students that take advantage of the free services? Because if you just look at that total, it went down to 30%. Do we have any idea of knowing that, or is it just because the COVID thing is so skewed right now, it may be hard to know that?
A lot of that is based on application, and what we see is as students get older, not as many make application and take advantage of that opportunity. When you look at our primary schools, they're probably right at 50%, and then it just declines as it goes up. And of course, that average has decreased because, like you said, and I can talk to Ms. Dunn about that and get some more clarity on it.
All right. Any other questions? Moving on to discussion and action items. The first item on our agenda is request approval to proceed with Lee County Primary Renovation Project and appoint Greg Smith as the architect. Dr. Miller.
Well, we're asking the board to name Greg Smith from Buckley and Associates as the architect for the Lee County Primary School renovation project. This is a step in the process of getting state approval and state participation, i.e. funding, for the project. And Greg's here today to share some information with you, I think, and answer any questions you may have. And I believe he has some renderings as well.
I do.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, Mr. Smith.
Good evening. Just make this back to the old school way, forwards, not technology. I have three boards I'd like to share. One's a site plan, one's a floor plan, and one's a series of elevations. We've been meeting with the superintendent, the staff, facilities, maintenance, and talking about this facility and what the needs are in this building. And needs are pretty extensive. We're talking about everything from roofing to air conditioning to all interior finishes. But beyond that, we're looking at a lot of site work issues that need to be resolved. We're looking at spatial and organizational issues within the building, the individual toilets versus gang toilets. We're looking at needs for additional classrooms and PE facilities. So as we've had these discussions, we've started to identify those types of needs.
Would you like to
put it on the
sit
side?
over here and kind of turn it so
Okay.
everybody can kind of see it?
Not completely block people. Okay, so as we talked about it, there are some issues with the site. A lot of it has to do with traffic and flow, especially in the morning when parents drop off students. So we're looking at trying to elongate the drop-off area, which does affect also the bus area. So as we come in here now, the traffic flow would come all the way down and back out. We're currently at stop here. So we'd elongate it as much as we could. The drive would come off the side on Rover Street down here and then come through. As part of that, we're looking at revising the canopy. Right now, the drive-through canopy there is not terribly effective. Really doesn't protect people from the weather. So we're looking at something more the size of the elementary, some of the other ones you built, that gives a little bit more protection out there. And that would be here, and then creating some wings along the sides. You have places for students to stand outside as they're waiting to be picked up instead of just that little narrow canopy. So part of it, that's the drive. We're looking at adding staff parking across the street. As we're across there also, you have a fueling station here for the bus shop. So we're looking at adding pavement for that fueling station. Right now it's just basically dirt, gravel. And taking that back and connecting back to your transportation area. So that roadway would go back over there and be directly across from the access to the bus shop. So that as you bring vehicles back to be maintained and parked, they can come in here and fuel and go straight back across the road and not have to come back out here. So there's some real advantages to that. We'll talk about the interior in a minute. One of the things you may not have heard about before was a classroom addition. As we start to talk about the renovations of this project, the question became, how do we do that? The high school, you gave up 6 to 8 classrooms at a time. You gave up a series of classrooms because you didn't need all of them at that particular time. We had just built them multi-purpose. This building has no spare classrooms. And the renovation portion of it's going to take a good year to renovate that building. So what we looked at is go ahead and be proactive and build a 6th classroom addition. That way you can get that classroom building built, and then you can take each of these pods and renovate each one of these individual pods at a different time frame. So you do them sequentially. So you're really not interfering with school, you're just moving people around, much like you did the high school project when you did that one. So that's what this is. It's a 6th classroom addition with restrooms and with teacher work areas. One of the other major changes is back over here on the side, and that's adding a PE facility. And when we look at the floor plan, I'll go a little bit more into what's happening with that. But because of this classroom addition, the drive currently comes in here. It'll move back. Kitchen service remains as it is. This road remains as it is. We just offset the actual connection back to the roadway. New construction taking place, new pavement, new buildings, so obviously we're gonna have to provide some retention on site. So the intention is that back in this area, the area that's not terribly used would become the retention area that essentially drains back that way, and we'll take advantage of that. Any questions about the site plan itself? And we can come back to it, I'll just give you an overview of it first. The floor plan, as I mentioned earlier, one of the big items in the building is all of the individual restrooms within the facility. They're substandard in terms of accessibility. They're way too small to meet current requirements, so we're looking at removing those and replace them with Torah batteries. The restrooms were here. We basically take them out, create a wall there, which enlarges the classroom somewhat. Then we'd come back and take one of the classrooms and modify that space into a Torah battery. One of the items you mentioned last time, I had shown the Torah rooms, if you recall, in the center. And your comment was it's too far away for preliminary, for primary grade. So now there's one there, one here, and one here, so they're more spread out than they were previously. The other thing about that campus is, as you enter the building, you really can't see anything. Walk straight up to the media center, it's in the center of it. So the circulation is circuitous, it goes around that media center. What we're looking at doing here is taking out that media center, putting it in the PE facility, creating classrooms here, and then cleaning up the circulation so that you can see all the way down the halls and have much better supervision of the building itself. You don't have the interruption here of the media center in the center. You talked there, what are your thoughts about that?
Let's back up.
Okay.
Okay. Was it a consideration to make that bathroom in those classrooms, you know, just one, but make it, you know, for everyone in the classroom? I mean, was that a consideration?
It was, we have certain requirements we also have to meet. There has to be a male and female. You can't just have one that serves two classrooms. If you're gonna have restrooms between classrooms, you have to have two.
Okay.
The other side, we also looked at enlarging it to make it handicap accessible. Then your classroom starts to fall below state standard.
Oh, I get it.
So each one of those items we looked at had a conflict with it. But yes, we did consider that.
I know, Ashley, I'm putting you on the spot. I mean, what do your teachers think that are in the building? We used to call it the old kindergarten building, the building behind the gym that had bathrooms in them. Is that a good thing for your teachers? Because there's not a game bathroom in that building.
Where? What building are you talking about?
Do what?
What building are you talking about?
Well, we called it the kindergarten building. The woman has the bathrooms in directly behind the gym. They have bathrooms in their classrooms.
Okay.
Pre-K does.
Yes, in the classrooms, yes.
Right, as opposed to the building that's adjacent to this building that has the game bathrooms.
It depends on who you ask.
Okay, all right, we'll move on.
That's a fair comment.
I'm glad that you have relocated those because it will be more convenient for those students especially.
So other items are taking place as we are modifying the administration. If you notice, this side still has a side board, but here we enclosed it so that we can create a larger principal office, a conference room. There's not much of a conference room, and then teacher workrooms in here. So this portion of administration gets modified. It's rather tight. Again, the restrooms there are tiny, and the passages are tiny, so the area in yellow is being reworked. Access issues with the stage, there's no handicap ramp. So we've been looking at adding a handicap ramp on the rear portion where that corner comes in, and then just modify the doors here into the outside. Convert the gym into a PE, to a media center, and then create a new PE facility on the outside. And then this is the classroom addition we just talked about. Questions about the changes? As you can see, there are pretty significant changes in the floor plan and the layout of the building.
Can we go back?
Certainly.
I got one question that, and this is the first time I've seen this, so I'm gonna have lots more questions. But
And I'll leave the boards and
when you're gonna drive those buses across the highway, are we gonna have a red light or a stop sign or a stoplight put up so that we cross that? We're crossing 195, correct?
that's correct. You
It's
are.
no longer
It's
195.
it's no longer a highway, but you are crossing that road that you're referencing, yes.
So we're gonna have traffic lights to allow the buses to have access across that road?
I think those are some discussions that need to take place with the local authorities, see if that can happen. I think it'd be worthwhile. It's a lot easier now that it's not a highway. If it was a highway, the answer would be no. But as being just a county road now, there may be more possibility of it. Any question about the floor plan? The canopy we talked about out front. Here are a couple potential images of the canopy. Option one being on the left, which is more traditional, more like what you have out there right now. That is, it's metal roof, sloping metal roof. There's a little bit more modernistic view out here where there's a curved one, translucent panels. You have a lot of natural light down there, so it tends to modernize a little bit. There could be a lot of other options. These are just two that we looked at initially as we started to throw out ideas to see what you might be interested in. Okay. Questions about the proposals?
What was the time frame you were thinking of completing? The year
Okay,
was?
right now the preliminary drawings are complete. They're ready to go to the state when the board says that you're ready to move forward. That's the first step. The time frame is somewhat subject to your availability of funds. So Gary and I have been working back and forth. Your funds are subject to the State Department of Education's funding cycle. And that is, they will meet next legislature session, January, February, March. You probably won't know until March or April whether or not you truly have those funds. So the way we've set up the schedule is that we would have bids received in April, and that you'd act at the end of April, 1st of May, once you knew whether or not those funds were available.
And assuming completing as much as we can, not during the school year. Go
It-
ahead and
it-
get a hefty start.
The first priority will be coming back and building that classroom.
But the other side is, we're looking at construction manager at risk, so the bids will not be from the construction manager. So the next step is to, go ahead with
The next step would be to hire a construction manager, just like you have in the past. We have developed requests for proposals for seeing firms. We've gone back and forth. We've established the criteria. So when you're ready to publish those, it could be this month, next month, whenever you're ready, those can be advertised. They have to be advertised for 30 days. Go back through the same process you did before, where you select them based upon given criteria. There's a matrix and a scoring card, and then you can interview them after that. So that will be one of the next steps that takes place in the process. And I'd say that needs to occur November, December, not much later than that.
So we were looking at about 9 million, but there have been significant changes. So our anticipated price of all these renovations now would be,
Before I give you an answer to that, I'm going to qualify it. This market is extremely difficult, both in availability of materials. I'm hearing even roofing's a year out, air conditioning's 8 months out, and just the inflationary effect of getting those materials. I have a project right now that we're estimating up a little bit north of here, and the project in 6 months on a $50 million project went up $5 million. Sort of hard to control that and estimate where you are. I feel like my estimates are reasonable. I can't guarantee anything. That's my disclaimer.
Okay.
Anyway, to answer your question, right now we're about 14 to 14 and a half. Goes back to Gary's comment. Between the addition of the items such as this, which is the classroom addition, some of these major work items, one thing I did not mention is we thought we'd go ahead and include the bus drive at the 9th grade academy as part of this. If you're doing all this pavement at one time, it might make sense to go ahead and include that pavement at the same time. So that's in that estimate too.
And that would redirect the traffic back out away from where the buses come out and you have the stop signs and they.
Yeah.
So,
We compile this quotation, can we put those as alternates so that we can make a decision based on the cost?
Absolutely.
And then also, this is my wheelhouse, so I would like to be involved so that I can report back to the board about all the phases of construction from start to finish. If there's any way that we can make that work.
Sure.
And just so I can be, I'm not gonna be there to govern you by no means, but I just
I'd
wanna
love for you to be
represent
involved.
the board and know what's going on in all phases and steps through this process.
Well, I'm based on pretty broad assumptions, we've talked about it, but I've also talked with a couple of construction managers about what they thought was reasonable timeframes. But I'd love to have your feedback on it. Right now, in that schedule, I've allocated, for example, 9 months for this, but then I really only allocated about 2.5 months to do each one of these pods. So I have developed a schedule, but I'd love to get your feedback.
I guess one big question is this a good time to be doing construction?
Answer is no. Now, whether or not there will be a better time, I don't know that either. Right now, between the availability of materials, as I mentioned, I have jobs right now we can't get paint. We can't get insulation. I was with a client this morning that said if he ordered roof today, he'd have it in a year. So there are serious material issues out there that we've never faced before. So even if you and I come up with the best schedule, it may not happen because the materials may not be there. But I don't know when and if it's going to improve. One would think it has to at some point.
One thing I'm seeing is we have a real lax in labor force. And a lot of contractors are using materials as an excuse as to why they can't complete a job when it's actually labor force. So, and that's really not a good answer that a customer wants to hear is I don't have the people to do the work. Now, if you say I can't get the materials, you can't get the
They
materials.
understand that.
Yeah, so, you know, with all that in mind, I definitely don't want to hinder starting a project, but I mean, it's something we just need to really look at. And then two, when we talk about workforce, and we're gonna have students in class or on campus while we're doing construction, we need to do background checks on all construction people coming on site so that we know we don't have anybody or any individual that would be harmful to one of our students.
We do require that. We'll make sure you have copies of
that's
those
part
records.
of the contract.
It is part of the contract, that's correct.
We,
We've done that before.
yes, and if there's any concerns, we've had good experience, and if there's ever a concern, it's addressed immediately and dealt with appropriately. So, we used this process when the high school was remodeled, and it worked beautifully to get that done with kids in the building. And, when I was at the old Twin Oaks, which is the current 9th grade, we finished the school year that year. That was 2008, with the kids sitting on the floor because we'd taken all the desks out. Just a day or so, you know, they thought it was fun. But we started immediately working on getting those restrooms and getting that project going. And so I feel confident that we can successfully do this. I don't know as much as Gary and Greg does about construction, but it seems like things keep going up in price, and I don't know.
That would be my concern. If
That-
it were delayed, what would the inflation do with that? And I'm seeing significant upward trends of costs. I'm sure you're probably seeing the same thing right now.
Once somebody starts paying for it, they typically are gonna continue to pay that.
Exactly. You don't see it go back down once.
Devil's advocate, because I've gotten this question before, why not just build a new building? If you were to put up a comparable facility like this, what are you looking at total cost from ground up?
Dr. Miller asked me the same question 2 weeks ago, so I went ahead and figured out 25 million.
That's what I have.
Okay. So that question was asked, and I did some calculations before.
Greg, we made application for state funds. How long do we have to have this under contract? Is it 2 years?
It's 2 or 3, it's somewhere in that time frame.
So how much more state funds do you get for a new building versus this renovation?
Well, I don't think we would earn state, we'd have to totally get rid of this building, to earn the money. So, you would get more money, but it wouldn't be twice the amount.
Oh, yeah. So you mentioned that we added some things when we had the 9 million that we first talked about.
The sixth classroom.
The sixth classroom was a big one, that's 2 million.
That's 2 million.
That's a big one.
So-
We added the drive for the bus, I'm sorry, for the fueling station. We added the drive for the 9th grade academy. We also looked at replacing more of the roofing, for example, in this wing, just so the entire building looked the same. And we looked at replacing more of the air conditioning units. So and I actually have on my estimate the items that have changed.
I was just trying to get an idea in my head how much we had gone up from the
Biggest
original.
Biggest one
estimate.
is that right there.
We could take that out and go back, but it would be portable.
I was just trying to get an idea of what we've seen in the, 2 years we've been talking about this, how much we've seen in inflation for increasing cost of build just on that portion. I understand why it's gone up and the reason it's gone up more. I just want us to get an apples to apples comparison.
The pavilion in front, I think, was
That's
not the
been-
original.
Originally, that's correct. We also did not have with a gym or all the doors. We're just replacing the exterior doors. We're replacing all the doors now. We weren't replacing any of the windows. We're replacing all of them. As we started to look at the building more in detail, we saw that some of those areas were showing the lot that they've had some use.
So this don't have a new roof over the whole?
Yes.
It does.
Yes. And that's metal over metal.
So it's
it'll
gonna
look the
overlay?
same. We're gonna leave the metal there, put a retrofit system, move the insulation up to the deck where it really should be, and then put new metal on top of it. It will look the same when it's finished. It'll just raise it about 3 or 4 inches.
And there's no moisture issues between the two, we've seen?
No. And we've done that before successfully.
So how much are the portable units?
Well, back last time I bought one, it was about 35. I don't have a clue what they are now. That was many years ago.
35,000?
One of the challenges is not the cost, but what to do with them when you're done. We still have those that were bought years ago.
That was when we built, when we did the high school way back, almost 20 years ago. So I have no idea what it would cost now.
I met with a client this morning who just put in 6 of them, and they cost him $450,000 to put those 6 in.
That's $2 million to get 6 classrooms. You know, that and paving that area for the buses and, we just keep adding.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's a lot.
There's a lot.
One-
I think
One potential, and it's not anything we're committed to yet, would be we could perhaps eventually move our pre-K classes from this campus to the 2 primary schools, the primary schools they serve. And we are not, I'm not saying we're doing that, but that is one possibility, because one of the challenges that Ms. Brim has here is all of our pre-K students ride to the primary school on the bus and then transfer to another bus and then come to us, because we don't have the space here for busing all those students directly to this site. And so that would eliminate taking our youngest kids and having to do that transfer twice a day, because they do the reverse process. They get on a bus, go to one of the primaries, get on another bus, and then go home. And so that would potentially be addressed. And of course, that would mean adding
more
6
classrooms.
classrooms and adapting potentially KPS to have. But that building was designed with that in mind, I believe, that 2nd grade extension, which is 2nd grade here at, you did that project.
Yes,
correct? And then we added a 2nd grade, you remember, that was 2006 or 7. We added a wing on each of the primary schools to accommodate growth. And so this could be one.
How often, you said 20 years ago we did expansion? Or when was it, 2000?
6 or so.
Yeah, it was 2000, it was my first year as a principal. I think it was 2006. So because 2nd grade that year moved to Twin Oaks with me from KPS. And we had, we expanded each primary school.
our governor at the time, we used to could lower the class size by the use of a paraprofessional by a third, but the governor took that away. So basically, we had to have more classrooms because we had 28 in the primary age school with a paraprofessional teacher. And he said, no, we're not doing that anymore. So they're not funded. So we, right that second, we didn't have enough classrooms. So we had to.
But I mean, if you had 6 now at a price of $2 million, I hate to know what 6 is gonna cost in 10 more years. When you're gonna need 6 more.
Well, that would be something the board would, I mean, we'd have to have a lot of talking, but I'm saying that's a potential to solve another issue we're having
Right.
with the transfer students. And
Back to your comment, it could also be something that's an alternate. So you can determine on bid day where you are and what options you wish to take at that point.
But we just spent all that money renovating building D
we did.
for pre-K, a new lunchroom.
Yes, but we could use more space. We don't have a problem filling up space. We could relocate a program there or consider some other alternatives. That would not be an issue.
As we do this project, we're touching every room throughout the school.
We are. Minimally here, every other room completely.
Is it built?
Even back here, for example, this is broken up into a lot of smaller rooms. That just becomes a special interest.
Lee Primary opened in '86, I think.
86.
They were building, I think, when Frank and I were still in elementary school.
And then those additional classes were added the second grade in 2006. So that was for growth. It is less expensive than building a new school.
Sure.
And so, when you think of a school system, this is just my thinking, but you think of a flagship school. It's usually the high school, and it is. But to me, this is kind of another flagship school for us. It's been, Lee County, when they built the primary, there weren't a lot of those in Georgia. And so that was a model that they implemented, and it was very successful and has been for a number of years. Some of the kids that went to that school are teaching for us now. And it is an iconic location, and this would allow it to continue on for many more years. And we would not, if we raise that building, and we'd have to, where would the kids go? Sure. For that time? So I don't really, or then the other option would be to go off-site somewhere, buy some land, build it. And so this is less costly, and we can, just like those pictures you saw at the Kinchfield Primary's library, we can make that school, the whole building like that. And that's our goal, is to do that. But it is costly.
Totally paid for it 5 years.
Yes, sir.
Was cost of
Yes, sir. And it is, the voters have approved us doing this.
All right, any other questions of Mr. Smith? All right, we have the matter before us. What is the pleasure of the board as it relates to officially naming Greg as the architect for this project?
The only thing is I would ask that you change and put my name on the Board of Education instead of Ms. Dane's.
I understand that. What is the pleasure of the board? We have a motion from Ms. Lang. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Appreciate it. I'll leave these boards so you can look at them later.
Moving on to the next item on the agenda is request approval to provide $1,000 supplement for all full-time employees and a $500 supplement for employees who are or will be fully vaccinated. What is the pleasure of the board?
Yes.
Have a motion?
Mhm.
Is there a second? Second from Ms. Ford. Is there any discussion? I will say I am in full support of the $1,000 supplement for full-time employees, and quite frankly, could support even more. I do have a fundamental issue with the $500 supplement for the vaccine, given where we are in this course of dealing with the vaccine. If the numbers that I'm given are correct, 56% of our county is either vaccinated with one dose or two. That being the case, historically, in other school districts, this supplement is more of an incentive to encourage other people to get vaccinated. I get that. Were we May, June of this year, when we didn't know how widely accepted the vaccine was going to be, and the general public and our staff hadn't been given enough opportunity to make up their mind, I could see that as a way for us to incentivize our employees to get the vaccine. My argument here, please don't hear me, is not about the efficacy of vaccines. That's a foregone conclusion. The issue is, for me, is it's really not an incentive. It is a bonus or a reward for getting the vaccine, which has the potential in this heightened environment that we live in, politics or social, driving a wedge or further causing division that I think is absolutely unnecessary. I think there's a way to give benefit to our employees with this money that we've been given by the federal government because they've earned it, without a doubt. I don't think the vaccine supplement is the way to do it. If I thought that there was a dramatic increase going to happen in the vaccinated employees, I could see it. But I think we're running the risk of simply paying folks who've already made our school system safe by their actions of getting the vaccination on their own volition, for whatever reason that they felt it right or safe for their family. But we will not do anything to incentivize, or very little, to incentivize greater participation in the vaccine. But we'll make a statement as a system that we reward one personal decision over another without dramatically increasing public safety. Any other comment?
Yeah, I feel we are rewarding those that are taking it a step further in the fact that I don't care if anybody chooses to have the vaccine or not. Personally, it's a personal decision. But where this stands to be a little different in rewarding somebody, you're not only protecting yourself, you're protecting others. And if we have the chance to make it, I know 2 people in this room that had been offered that $500, so that's why they're getting the vaccine, because of the $500 supplement. So if I could get 3 or 4 or 5, 10 more, who knows? I think we will make a difference. And with that being said, this is not to be a divisive subject, in my opinion, or punishment. I believe nobody is being deprived of their fundamental right to choose by offering somebody that chooses to vaccinate, by lowering risk, and I just don't believe we're taking anything away from anybody. I want that to be said.
Gary,
Yes, ma'am.
this is coming out of the American Rescue.
CARES money, just the third. Brooke is and I don't know if it's the second or the third, but it's one of the 2.
This is American Rescue?
Yes.
And so this is money that was given to the system for specific purposes, and one of those purposes can be to promote immunization among the staff.
Anything that helps you decrease the spread of COVID.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I meant. Okay, but it's American Rescue money, it's not, it wasn't prior budget, is kind of my point. All right.
Do we know if this has been successful in other systems around us or peer systems that are doing it? Do we know how many have done it?
I don't have a number of how many. I know Gwinnett County did this. Our neighbor Doherty County did it, and they had a dramatic increase. Now, they did a different amount than we did. Gwinnett did the same amount that we represented that Doherty had a significant impact on their vaccination, according to my conversations with them. So other systems have done this, but I don't know.
Can you clarify to be eligible for an incentive?
What we're asking people to do is to get their vaccination before the end of this semester. We're gonna say December 13th. The last day of school is the 16th or 17th, so that the employees will be paid that day for December. And our hope is to include both incentives in that December paycheck. So they would have to certify their status with us. That will be kept confidential. And we have a document that they will complete and upload a picture of their vaccine card. And, you know, considered fully vaccinated is 2 weeks after your second shot. We're just saying vaccinated. If they, depending on which choice they make, the window changes because
And if you're on the 2-shot system, you would have to have the 2 shots.
before the
And then
13th,
before
yes,
going to
ma'am.
2
And
weeks.
there's enough time. If you do Moderna, you got about a week to get that first shot. If you do Pfizer, you got about 2 weeks before you take the first shot. And of course, J&J could be any time between now.
And I just want to emphasize, I fully respect a person's, whatever they
Absolutely.
decide, because they've done their research.
Absolutely.
They have a reason for either way.
Absolutely.
And
This is
this
not
is
a
not to
mandate.
compel or mandate.
Right, and this is not a requirement, it's not related to the actions taken by the president last week that was announced. This has nothing to do with that. This is about keeping schools open. And a critical issue for having school in person is staff. And this is a rationale for that.
And it's got you got those guideline things there, but it's gonna be all employees of record as of this meeting. Whoever was on the agenda tonight, or whoever's fully employed right now. So if somebody gets hired in December and they had the vaccine, we've gotta have a drop dead down for payroll.
If I get my $500, I can.
You're an employee.
Do we have any mention of the president? Do we know whether we are included under that?
My understanding is we're not, from what I understand, there are 26 states where the school systems in those states submitted safety plans to the Office of Safety and Health Administration, OSHA. And OSHA is how they're holding accountable. There's a map, I could send you the article, but there's a map showing which states that includes. And Georgia is not one of them. Now what will happen in the future, we don't know, but we don't have any plans to mandate or require. Everybody's free to choose what they think is best for them. The $1,000 is a mitigation for emergency paid sick leave for our teachers ended October 8th. It actually ended last December, but we carried it forward through the first 9 weeks of this school year to provide a measure of protection for their sick leave. And so that's ended now. And we've been in a good time, but if we were to have another surge or issue, this $1,000 would provide protection for everybody. Will receive that. The 500 additional would just be another opportunity if people were so inclined. But I know one district did an incentive, but it was all or nothing. You got it or you didn't. And this way, we're taking care of all of our employees at some level and providing some protection for them. And our hope is that it'll help them out. And help us with our staffing issues, because that, we gotta have bus drivers, cafeteria workers, teachers, paraprofessionals to continue offering in-person learning.
And then those teachers will be subject to the same quarantine guidelines if they're vaccinated without masking up or understand that. How is that?
Well, if you're vaccinated and someone in your home tests positive, a spouse, a child, then you can continue at work. But if you're not, you cannot. So that person may be well, but because they live in a close environment, I'm not using it right, there's another term for that, but then they're gonna have to quarantine. And so our hope is to ultimately, and I don't know how to put a number on it, to protect the learning of our students. So if I'm taking a difficult class, or if I'm learning to read as a kindergartner, or a tough math class at the high school, and my teacher's out for 10 days, I'm probably not going to get the instruction I would have if they were there. And that's no disrespect to our substitute teachers, but I couldn't teach calculus. I couldn't help anybody, or you know, I'm a professional educator, but that wouldn't be the best scenario for students. So what we're trying to do is make sure our schools can stay open. We've had 3 school shutdowns since March 2020. The first, we had no control over that, but then we had to go virtual with our 6 through 12 schools last December. If y'all remember that, about a week or so ahead of the end of the semester, and then we had to delay the start of second semester last year. And then, of course, this fall we had to close school down. Our hope is, we school open. And I have hope for the future. Someone mentioned to me today about the COVID pill this on the horizon, and certainly the opportunity for our youngest students to get vaccinated. That's if the family's so inclined, that's another measure of protection that's out there. Hopefully one day this will be something not to the degree that it's been these 18 or 20 months we've been dealing with.
How long, I'm sorry, how long until, or how long are we running this?
Well,
is there going to be a stop date?
Yes, sir. Hopefully by December 13th, the second dose of the 2 vaccines, or the 1 dose of the 1 shot they would be able to give our payroll folks time to get that in, to have that in their December paycheck. And then obviously if somebody tested positive at the end of October and they took the monoclonal, I'm not saying that word right, monoclonal treatment, they wouldn't be able to get vaccinated for a period of time. So we'll, on a case-by-case basis, work with those individuals.
But if they could choose to get vaccinated next semester, is there a deadline just for this year?
We have to set some parameters on that.
So they're not even set yet?
They're not set yet, but I mean.
Well, they are. We're shooting for December 13th.
Yeah, if somebody's on the fence and they might not rush and get it right now at Christmas, I might wait and get it in January, February or something.
Well, and they want the incentive unless they have a mitigating circumstance,
Gotcha.
which we will consider on a case-by-case basis. But we have to have some parameters, and
Don't the money have to be spent too? The CARES Act money's got to be spent by a certain.
yes, sir. There's a window. There's a sunset on it, but it's a year or 2, depending on which of the 3 that's come out. This has been. We have to provide a plan for how we're using the money to the state, and a rationale in the plan, and this has got state approval.
Just if I could know how much this was going to incentivize extra work out there, or extra participation, I could possibly get on it. But right now, I think if the numbers correlate, 56% of our staff being vaccinated like the county numbers, what's a reasonable estimation as to how many people are going to take this incentive? I know you mentioned 2 tonight, but we're talking $250,000, $300,000 just on the ones that we assume have already been vaccinated.
Well, I asked Mr. Gary that before the meeting, and we don't know.
We have not surveyed.
We asked that same. I asked that same.
Well, we have not surveyed our staff and
Right.
said, are you vaccinated or not? I cannot tell you who is and who isn't. I might know because somebody told me they are, or I've heard about it, but I cannot give you a name for name. And we're not out to find out which side of the coin you're on. We're not trying, that's not the purpose here. The purpose is to keep school going. When we closed school this fall, it was because of, you know, one of the factors was staff availability. And it's nobody's fault. It happens. You know, unfortunately, in that surge, we skyrocketed and had unprecedented numbers in our community, and I hope we'll never see those numbers again. But this would be a measure of protection, so that my hope is we wouldn't have to make that kind of call again as a school system. It's part of our mitigation plan. It's a possibility. We'll do what we need to do as the moment arises, but this might help us finish this school year without having to, and maybe this is, you know, the end of it. And maybe we won't see it again. I know there's some feelings that I heard a doctor, an immunologist on the news recently that said, you know, perhaps we've turned a corner, we've surpassed that 75% threshold. I know you've seen those Phoebe signs around town between people who have immunity from being testing positive, plus their natural immunity, plus those who've been vaccinated. Maybe all together that gets us in that position where we can, you know, be out of the woods on this thing, but we don't know that. I think whatever your view of vaccines or all these other issues, I think everybody on both sides of whatever the issue is agrees kids need to be in school. And that's how I look at this, not a, you know, I can't even get my own family to agree on this subject, and I don't expect we're going to get anybody to agree. We don't want to create division, but we do want to have school.
I'll say this one last thing, then I'll be done. I think if a greater show of concern in providing a modicum of support for future need for funds for being out for COVID might in fact be just increasing the overall bonus for everybody. Because otherwise, you're not providing any additional support for those folks who might be out there unvaccinated.
Well, the 1,000.
Any addition.
That, well, right, but that's their choice.
Any other comment? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. 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 I will support. All those in favor? It passes 5-0. We skipped over the public participation because we didn't have anybody signed up to speak, to my knowledge. Do we have anybody? Okay, sorry about that. And we have one more item on the agenda. Dr. Miller, request for approval to add scholastic assessment test preparation to Lee County High School course
Yes, sir.
catalog.
This is a semester-long elective that helps students prepare for taking the Scholastic Aptitude Test, which is a gateway test for getting into college, certain colleges. Many students have done this on their own, even traveling out of Lee County to Macon or Atlanta to take these kind of courses that have not been offered here. Some have done it online. But we would like to have this as an opportunity during the school day at Lee County High School, and our hope is that it will help students improve their SAT scores, increase acceptance to their desired universities and institutions, and enhance scholarship opportunities for them.
Further presentation from the superintendent. What is the pleasure of the board?
Most enthusiastically so moved as a parent. In line with 2 teenagers in a prep course.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second from Ms. Ford. Any discussion?
That's a semester-long class, so you really would be targeting first semester seniors or any year junior?
Dr. Hancock is at a conference. She's not here tonight. I would think, Mr. Dowling, could you speak on that? That it would really, I would think, be any grade level.
Yeah, I mean, you've got kids of all ages taking the SAT now, so it could be an elective for anybody. I mean, we actually had a class like this years ago. Matter of fact, I think it was in the early aughts, or the late aughts, but it's just bringing it back and just trying to help kids, be better prepared for the rigors of the test.
I mean, so my guess, that's not implemented yet, but what if you have a senior now that you might be interested in something like that? Do they have any?
I think
This
it's the
would
next
be
one.
next year.
Yeah, it's the
It
next
would, it
one.
would.
Yeah,
yes,
so is there anything currently
No, sir.
besides to help
There's
any
nothing-
senior in high school?
Yeah, there's nothing official, I think, through the school, but now there all are sorts of.
Like online things, yeah.
Shooters and things
There's
outside.
online, and there's some that actually partner with local, with area schools who,
Mhm.
and have,
Okay.
I think have contacted us about it.
That's it, I'm sorry, I was just
Yes,
curious.
sir. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Good question.
Any other comments?
I was just thinking.
Who seconded?
Ms. Gordon. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Passes 5-0. Seeing no other matter on the agenda, I will declare us adjourned. Thank you for being here.
What paper
All right.